Right now, somewhere in your home, there is a piece of paper that could destroy everything you've spent your life building. Not a weapon, not anything dangerous looking, just a document, sitting in a drawer maybe, or a filing cabinet that hasn't been locked in years, or a box in the closet that anyone in your house could open. And the wrong person, just one wrong person getting their hands on it for 5 minutes could cost you your savings, your identity, your credit, and years of your life trying to undo the damage. If that thought makes your stomach drop even a little, good, that means you're paying attention. Because most men I've known never thought about this until something went wrong, and by then the damage was already done. Stay with me, because by the end of this you'll know exactly which documents need to be locked away today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. And you'll understand why protecting a piece of paper is one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your entire life. I want to start with something simple. Walk through your house today, in your mind, right now, while you're listening, and think about where your important papers are. The filing cabinet in the spare room, the drawer in the kitchen where things accumulate, the shoebox in the closet, the folder on the desk that hasn't been organized in 2 or 3 years. Now ask yourself one honest question. If someone got into that room, a visitor, a repairman, a caregiver, even a family member you trust but haven't fully thought about, how quickly could they find what they needed to do real damage to your life? In most homes, the answer is faster than you'd like to believe. I spent the better part of my adult life thinking that document security was something other people needed to worry about. Banks worried about it. Businesses worried about it, not regular men living regular lives in regular houses. I was wrong about that. And it took a conversation with a man I'll call Gerald, a retired school teacher, 74 years old, as careful and steady a man as I've ever known, to understand exactly how wrong I was. Gerald didn't get robbed. Nobody broke into his house. Nobody hacked his computer. What happened was simpler and more ordinary than any of that. A contractor came in to do some work on the kitchen. Reputable company, good references. Gerald had used them before. He left the man working for a few hours while he ran errands. When he came back, everything looked fine. The work was done. The contractor left. It wasn't until 3 weeks later, when Gerald started getting calls about accounts he hadn't opened and charges he hadn't made, that he understood what had happened. The contractor had walked through the house during a break, found a folder on the desk in Gerald's office, right there in the open, that contained his Social Security card, a bank statement, and a copy of his Medicare card. 5 minutes, that's all it took. 5 minutes with those 3 documents, and Gerald spent the next 19 months untangling the damage, his credit, his accounts, his sense of safety in his own home. 19 months. Gerald told me afterward, sitting on his back porch on a quiet afternoon, the thing that got me wasn't that someone took from me. I've had things taken before. The thing that got me was that I handed it to them. I made it easy, because I never thought about it. The stories I share today are composite illustrations, drawn from patterns many people have lived through, shaped into something recognizable. They are not about any one real person, and nothing in this video is legal or financial advice. For decisions about protecting your documents and your estate, please work with qualified professionals who know your situation. These are reflections from a long life, offered so that you can protect yours. Now, let's talk about the documents, the ones that need to be locked away. Not eventually, today. Document 1, your Social Security card. I want to start here because this is the one that surprises people the most. Most men my age were told, at some point in their lives, to keep their Social Security card in their wallet. It was important. It was identification. You might need it. That advice made sense in a different era. An era before identity theft was the organized, sophisticated, devastatingly effective industry it has become. Here is what your Social Security number can do in the wrong hands in the wrong moment. It can open credit cards. It can file fraudulent tax returns in your name. It can be used to access existing accounts. It can be sold to someone else entirely, who then uses it to build a false identity that gets attached to your record for years. Your social security number is, in many ways, the master key to your financial life, and your social security card is the physical object that hands that key to anyone who finds it. A man I'll call Warren carried his social security card in his wallet for 40 years, never thought twice about it. It was just there, tucked behind his driver's license, because that's where he'd always kept it. Warren lost his wallet on a fishing trip, not stolen, just lost, slipped out of his jacket pocket somewhere along the riverbank. He retraced his steps, he looked everywhere, he never found it. What followed was not dramatic. No one called him threatening, no one appeared at his door, but over the next several months, small things started going wrong. A credit inquiry he didn't recognize, an account he couldn't remember opening, a letter from a collection agency for a debt that wasn't his. By the time Warren understood the full shape of what had happened, the person who found his wallet had done a quiet, thorough, patient job of using that social security number to build a parallel financial life in Warren's name. Warren spent years sorting it out, not months, years, filing disputes, talking to agencies, documenting everything, proving over and over that he was who he said he was and that the debts were not his. "I didn't know a card could do that," he told me. "It's just a little piece of paper. I didn't understand what it meant. Here is what it means. Your social security card should be in a locked location in your home, a safe, a locked filing cabinet, a safety deposit box at your bank. It should not be in your wallet. It should not be in a desk drawer. It should not be somewhere that any person who enters your home could reach in under 2 minutes. You almost never need the physical card. In the rare situations where you do, a new job, a specific legal or financial process, you can retrieve it then. The rest of the time it should be secured. This is not an overreaction. This is a basic, essential act of protecting the most important number attached to your name. Lock it away. Today, document 2, your birth certificate. Your birth certificate is the foundation of your identity in the eyes of almost every institution that matters. Your driver's license, your passport, your social security benefits, your Medicare enrollment, your financial accounts, virtually all of them can be traced back in some way to your birth certificate as the original proof of who you are. And because of that, it is one of the most powerful documents a thief can get their hands on. With a birth certificate, especially combined with 1 or 2 other pieces of information, someone can apply for a new driver's license in your name. They can obtain a passport. They can build an entirely new identity layer by layer using your origin as the foundation. This is not a theoretical risk. It is a documented pattern in identity fraud cases, particularly those targeting older adults, whose birth certificates are sometimes decades old and stored in places that haven't been revisited in years. A man I'll call Leonard had kept his birth certificate in a fireproof box in his basement for most of his adult life. When he moved to a smaller home after his wife passed, the box came with him, but in the chaos of moving it ended up on a shelf in an unlocked storage room. A family member who helped with the move, someone Leonard trusted, someone he had no specific reason to suspect, had access to that storage room for an afternoon. Leonard didn't know anything was wrong for over a year. What happened in that year, the accounts, the applications, the quiet accumulation of fraudulent activity, took Leonard into a process of restoration that was, by his own description, one of the most demoralizing experiences of his life. Not because it was violent, not because it was loud, because it was slow and bureaucratic, and because at every step he had to prove something that should never have needed proving, that he was himself. "That's the part nobody tells you," Leonard said to me. "When your identity gets used by someone else, you spend years proving you're real. And there's nobody to be angry at because the paperwork doesn't care about your feelings. Your birth certificate belongs in a locked safe or a safety deposit box, not a fireproof box that sits unlocked on a shelf, not a folder in the filing cabinet that anyone can open, a locked location that requires deliberate, specific access. And if you need a copy for any official purpose, you can usually obtain a certified copy from the Vital Records Office of the state where you were born. The original stays secured. This is one piece of paper. It cost you nothing to get, and it has sat quietly in your possession for decades. Lock it away. It is worth more than you may have ever realized. Document 3. Your Medicare card and insurance documents. This one is particularly important for men of our generation, and I want to take some time with it because there are a few layers here that matter. For many years, Medicare cards in this country displayed your full Social Security number directly on the card. If you had one of those older cards, and some people still do, you were essentially carrying your Social Security number in your wallet every day without realizing it. That has changed. New Medicare cards no longer display Social Security numbers. If you are still carrying an older card, now is the time to contact Medicare and request an updated one. That old card is a significant vulnerability. But even the new Medicare cards, along with your supplemental insurance cards, your prescription drug plan documents, and your healthcare proxy paperwork, all of these contain information that can be misused. Medicare fraud is a documented and widespread problem. It takes many forms, but one of the most common involves the use of a beneficiary's Medicare number to bill for services that were never provided. Services attached to your record, your history, your name. This kind of fraud doesn't always show up as money taken from you directly. It shows up in your medical records, in claims filed in your name, in services documented against your Medicare history that could in some cases affect the care you receive later. A man I'll call Philip discovered this the hard way when a routine review of his Medicare summary showed several treatments he had never received at a clinic in a city he had never visited. His Medicare number had been obtained through a phishing call, it turned out, in which someone posing as a Medicare representative asked him to confirm his card number to update his records. Philip lost no money directly, but the process of reporting the fraud, correcting his records, and ensuring his medical history reflected the truth rather than the fiction someone had constructed. That process took months and required persistence that at his age and in his health he could not easily spare. They used my number like a billing code, he told me, like I wasn't a person, just a number attached to a pot of money. Your Medicare card should be in your wallet only on days when you have a medical appointment. The rest of the time, it belongs in a secure location at home. Your insurance documents, the explanation of benefits, the policy summaries, the supplemental plan details, belong in a locked file, not in a general pile of papers in a drawer or on a desk. And review your Medicare summary regularly, not because you have nothing better to do, but because it is yours, and you deserve to know what is being attached to your name. Document 4. Your will, trust documents, and power of attorney. This is the category that makes people the most uncomfortable, and I understand why. Talking about your will means thinking about your death, and thinking about your power of attorney means thinking about a time when you might not be able to make your own decisions. Neither of those things is easy to sit with, but here's what I've learned from watching men handle and mishandle these documents over the years. The discomfort of thinking about them is nothing compared to the damage that can happen when they're not properly secured. Your will is the document that directs what happens to everything you've built after you're gone. It is, in the most literal sense, the final expression of your intentions. If the wrong person sees it before you're gone, a family member who discovers they received less than expected, a distant relative who didn't know they were excluded, someone with financial interests in your estate, it can create conflict, pressure, and manipulation while you are still very much alive. People change their behavior when they know what's coming to them, or when they know what isn't. A man I'll call Edward made the mistake of storing a copy of his will in an unlocked filing cabinet in his home office. He didn't think of it as a mistake at the time. It was organized, it was accessible, it was right where he knew to find it. One of his grandchildren, helping clean up after a holiday gathering, found the filing cabinet unlocked and, out of curiosity more than malice, Edward believed, read the will. What followed was not a confrontation. It was subtler and harder to name than that. Over the following year, relationships within the family shifted in ways that Edward couldn't directly connect to that moment but couldn't ignore either. Certain family members became warmer. Others became distant. One, a nephew who had apparently expected more than he was receiving, started making comments that suggested he knew more than he should. Edward told me, I spent the last years of my life managing the fallout from a document nobody was supposed to see yet. It changed how people treated me, and I couldn't say anything about it because I didn't even know for certain who had read it. Your will belongs in one of three places: with your attorney, who keeps an official copy; in a locked home safe that only you and one absolutely trusted person can access; or in a safety deposit box at your bank. Not in a filing cabinet, not in a desk, not in any location that a visitor, a caregiver, a repairman, or a family member could reach without your specific knowledge and permission. Now, the power of attorney. This document may be the single most powerful piece of paper in your possession. A power of attorney, specifically a durable financial power of attorney, gives the person you designate the legal authority to make financial decisions on your behalf, to access accounts, to sign documents, to manage your assets. In the right hands, the hands of someone you have deliberately chosen, who has your complete trust, who will use that authority solely in your interest, it is an essential protection. In the wrong hands, or accessed prematurely by the wrong eyes, it is extraordinarily dangerous. Elder law attorneys and adult protective services workers have documented consistently that power of attorney abuse is one of the most common and most damaging forms of elder financial exploitation. It often doesn't look like theft. It looks like a family member helping. It looks like convenience. It looks like someone saying, "Let me handle that for you." And because the document gives legal authority, it is enormously difficult to undo once misused. Your power of attorney documents should be in the hands of the attorney who drafted them and in a locked safe accessible only to you and, if necessary, the specific person you have designated. No one else should be able to locate, access, or read these documents without your explicit knowledge and permission. If you do not yet have these documents in place, I would encourage you to speak with a qualified estate attorney about what makes sense for your situation. These are not documents to delay. They are protections for you, for your intentions, for the life you've built. Handle them with the seriousness they deserve, and then lock them away. Document 5. Your passport. Your passport is one of the most valuable identity documents in the world, not because of what it costs to replace, though the process of replacement is genuinely inconvenient, but because of what it represents: a government-issued, internationally recognized proof of your identity and citizenship. In the hands of someone who knows how to use it, your passport can facilitate a remarkable amount of fraudulent activity: opening financial accounts, crossing borders, constructing false identities, and yet, passports are among the most casually stored documents in most households. A man I'll call Martin kept his passport in a travel bag that hung by his front door. Convenient. He traveled a few times a year and liked having it ready. The bag sat there for months at a time between trips, accessible to anyone who came through the front door. A repairman who came to fix a pipe in the entryway bathroom was in that area of the house for 2 hours. Martin didn't notice the passport was missing for 6 weeks. By the time he did, someone had already used the information to attempt, unsuccessfully in his case, to open several financial accounts. Unsuccessful because the fraud was caught early. But the process of reporting the theft, canceling the passport, applying for a new one, and documenting the attempted fraud took Martin nearly 4 months and an amount of energy that, at 76, he could not easily afford. 4 months, he told me. 4 months of my life spent cleaning up 2 hours of someone else's curiosity. Your passport, when you are not traveling, belongs in a locked safe at home or in a safety deposit box at your bank, not in a travel bag, not in a desk drawer, not on a shelf. When you travel, keep it on your person, not in a checked bag, not in a hotel room drawer. On your person, or in the hotel safe. This is one of those things that seems like excessive caution until the moment it isn't. By then, of course, it's too late for caution. All that's left is repair. Store it properly. Every day you're not traveling. Document 6. Financial account statements and investment records. Here is something that most people don't fully appreciate. You do not need your full account number, your routing number, and your personal information to commit financial fraud against someone. You need enough, and a bank statement, even a single one, even one that's months old, often contains enough. Your name, your address, your account number partially or fully displayed, your bank's name and branch, the pattern of your deposits and withdrawals, sometimes even your phone number. That information, assembled from a single piece of paper and combined with even one other piece of personal information, is sufficient for a practiced fraudster to do real damage. And financial statements arrive in the mail, they sit in the pile on the counter, they get stacked in the recycling without being shredded, they get filed in an unlocked cabinet, they sit on desks where anyone in the house might see them. This is so ordinary, so unremarkable, so much a part of everyday life that it doesn't feel like a risk, but it is. A man I'll call Douglas had been receiving paper statements from his bank and his brokerage for 30 years. He filed them loosely in a series of unlocked filing cabinet drawers in his garage. He never threw them away, not because he needed them, but because throwing them away felt wrong, like getting rid of records he might need someday. When Douglas had some work done on the garage one summer, a laborer who spent 3 days working in that space apparently spent some of those hours in closer proximity to those filing cabinets than Douglas realized. What followed was a pattern of small, careful, patient fraud, using the information from those statements, that took months to become visible and longer still to untangle. He didn't take big amounts, Douglas told me. He took small enough amounts, from enough places that it looked like ordinary transactions. I only noticed because I sat down one afternoon and really looked at everything. The combination of patience and information is what makes this kind of fraud effective. And financial statements provide the information. Here is what protects you. Go paperless where you can. Receive your statements electronically, reviewed on a secure device rather than in a physical form that can be seen, photographed, or taken. Where you receive paper statements, review them promptly and then shred them, with a cross-cut shredder, not a strip-cut shredder, before disposing of them. Statements you need to keep for tax or legal purposes belong in a locked filing cabinet, not in a garage, not in a general file that anyone in the house can access, locked. And review your statements regularly, not just for fraud, but for the quiet satisfaction of knowing what is yours and that it is accounted for. Your financial records are a map of your life's work. They deserve to be protected with the seriousness that work deserved. Document 7. Military discharge papers and veterans benefits documents. For the men who served this country, and there are many watching this, there is a document that deserves specific attention. Your DD-214, your certificate of release or discharge from active duty. This single document is the key to virtually every veteran's benefit available to you. Healthcare through the VA, educational benefits, home loan guarantees, burial honors, pension programs. Every one of these requires your DD-214 as proof of service. And beyond the benefits it unlocks, it contains significant personal information, your social security number in many cases, your date and place of birth, your service history, information that, in the wrong hands, is extraordinarily useful for identity fraud. A man I'll call Raymond, Air Force, 22 years of service, retired at 51, kept his DD-214 in a manila folder in his desk drawer. Right there, unsecured, because he needed it periodically for various benefits processes and it was easier to keep it accessible. A caregiver who came to help Raymond 3 mornings a week, someone from a home care agency, someone who had passed background checks, someone Raymond generally trusted, had access to his home office. Raymond only discovered the document had been copied, not taken, copied, when fraud attempts began appearing on his VA-related accounts. 22 years I gave this country, Raymond told me quietly, and then someone used that service against me. The original DD-214 belongs in a locked safe or safety deposit box, period, no exceptions. The VA can provide certified copies when you need them for specific benefit processes. You do not need to keep the original accessible. Request copies as needed and keep the original secured. If you served, you earned those benefits honestly. Protect the document that proves it with the seriousness your service deserves. What proper document security actually looks like. I've spent this video talking about the threats. Now I want to spend some time talking about the solutions. Because protection isn't complicated, it just requires doing it. There are essentially 3 tiers of document security available to most people, and which one is right for a given document depends on how sensitive it is and how often you need to access it. The first tier is a locked home safe. A good home safe, fireproof and waterproof, bolted to a wall or floor so it can't simply be carried away, is the most accessible secure storage most people can get. Your most sensitive documents live here. Social security card, birth certificate, passport when not traveling, original will and trust documents, original power of attorney, military discharge papers, a current inventory of your financial accounts. The cost of a good safe is modest relative to what it protects. The peace of mind is considerable. The second tier is a safety deposit box at your bank. For documents you rarely need physical access to but want secured outside your home, an additional layer of protection in case of fire, flood, or break-in, a safety deposit box is an excellent option. Original documents can live here as backups to copies you keep in your home safe. The third tier is a locked filing cabinet for documents that are sensitive but not at the highest level of risk. Insurance correspondence, medical records, tax returns, financial statements you've decided to keep in paper form. Locked, not closed. Locked. There is a meaningful difference. And across all 3 tiers there is one additional protection that costs almost nothing and dramatically reduces your risk from paper documents. A cross-cut shredder. Every document you no longer need. Every bank statement after you've reviewed it. Every insurance explanation of benefits after you've confirmed it. Every pre-approved credit offer. Every piece of mail that contains your name and any account information runs through the shredder before it goes in the trash. Not strip cut, cross cut. Strip cut shredding produces long pieces that can with patience be reassembled. Cross cut produces confetti. The difference matters. This is not a dramatic or expensive system. It is a simple, consistent habit, and it is one of the most effective things you can do to protect yourself from the kind of casual, opportunistic document theft that accounts for a significant portion of identity fraud cases. One afternoon, one trip to a hardware or office supply store for a safe and a shredder if you don't already have them. One organized session of going through your documents and deciding where each one belongs. That's it. That is the whole project. Let me give you something you can use right now. A simple list to take with you when this video is over. Documents that need to be in a locked safe or safety deposit box today. Your social security card, your birth certificate, your passport, your original will and trust documents, your power of attorney documents, your military discharge papers, your Medicare card when not in use, your most recent financial account statements until reviewed and then shredded, your insurance policy originals, documents that belong in a locked filing cabinet, medical records, tax returns for the past several years, insurance correspondence, financial statements you've decided to keep, property documents, deed, mortgage, title, documents that should be shredded immediately after use, any pre-approved credit offer, bank statements after review, explanation of benefits statements after review, any mail containing your name and partial account numbers, old financial records beyond the years you need to retain. This is not a complicated system, it is a deliberate one, and deliberateness at this stage of life is one of the most powerful tools you have. I want to close with something I've thought about a great deal. The men of our generation were not raised to think about this kind of thing. We were raised to work, to build, to provide, to make things solid and real through effort and time, and most of us did exactly that. We built lives. We accumulated, not just money but history, records, the paper trail of a full life honestly lived. And then we stored those records in file cabinets that haven't been locked since the Clinton administration, and kitchen drawers that anyone could open, and desk surfaces where a repairman could photograph everything he needed in 2 minutes while we were in the other room making him a cup of coffee. Not because we were careless, because we never had to think about it. The world has changed, the threats have changed, and the protection available to us has changed along with them, if we choose to use it. A locked safe, a locked cabinet, a shredder, an afternoon of organization. These are not large things, but they stand between the life you built and the people who would take it from you without a second thought. You protected your family for decades. You showed up, you provided, you did the hard things without being asked. This is one more hard thing. Except it's not hard at all. It is an afternoon, and then a habit, and then a kind of peace, the quiet, solid peace of a man who knows that what he built is protected, that the papers that record his life are where they belong, that the wrong person on the wrong day will not find what they're looking for. That peace is worth one afternoon. If something in this video made you think of a document you haven't thought about in a while, a card in your wallet, a folder in a drawer, a filing cabinet that hasn't been locked since you moved in, I'd be glad to hear from you in the comments. You might save someone else from finding out the hard way. Take care of yourself. Lock what needs to be locked. I'll see you in the next